We're in Holy Week. Yesterday, we read about Jesus's triumphal entry coming in humbly on the donkey. And today, we get this passage that's kind of strange because we see Jesus overturning tables in the temple and cursing a fig tree. It can feel a little bit off-putting because I think we have a tendency to focus on Jesus's humility, being born in a manger and riding it on a donkey. But we have this passage that's very different than that image. The good news is that it's not a contradiction. It's probably a both and because Jesus is both those things, right? He is the lamb that was slain, and he's also the Lion of Judah. And in this passage, we get to hear that lion roar a little bit. Matthew 21, verse 12, ESV. And Jesus entered the temple and drove out all who sold and bought in the temple, and he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold pigeons. I thought that detail of pigeons was interesting, and so I looked back to see in Leviticus what God might have said about pigeons or what significance they have. And I found two references in chapters 5 and 12 of Leviticus where God is giving commands about sacrifices, and he says to sacrifice a lamb. But in at least two places, he also says, but if you cannot afford a lamb, then you sacrifice 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons. And so it seems to me like this call out of pigeons is calling out some possible injustice or taking advantage of these poor Jews who are coming to the temple to buy their pigeons to make their sacrifices. And in verse 13 of Matthew 21, Jesus says, quoting Isaiah, "It is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you make it a den of robbers." So not only is there this possible sort of taking advantage of the people who are coming to make sacrifices, but there's also this house that's this temple that's supposed to be a place of prayer, a place that's set apart to experience, to commune with God, is being used for personal gain. And Jesus comes to clear that out and to set that right. After he does that, he heals the blind and the lame, Jesus does, and there are children crying out, "Hosanna to the Son of David." What is striking is the response of the priests and the scribes. Verse 15 says, they were indignant, angry, frustrated with the things that they were witnessing Jesus do and the ways that they were seeing people respond to Jesus. Then the next day, or it says in the morning, Jesus gets hungry and sees a fig tree and goes to it, but there's nothing but leaves. As I was reading up on fig trees, I found out that there's a kind of fig tree that bears a fig, and then after the fig is there, it bears the leaf. And so the leaves should be a sign that the fig is there, just like religious practices should be a sign that faith is there. But the truth is in the fruit. And so when Jesus sees this fig tree, expecting fruit because there's the sign of the leaf, and finds no fruit there, he curses the fig tree because it's not producing the fruit that it claims to. There is so much in this passage. There are so many cross references to Old Testament, to New Testament. Like the whole Bible, right, is just so rich. And I hope that you do find time in your gatherings or discipleship groups or with a friend or spouse to kind of break down more of what's happening here. But I think the two biggest things that have risen to the surface as I've been reflecting on this passage, I have 2 takeaways, or things that I'm reflecting on. So one is that as I seek the face of God, to know him more fully, I need to hold both that he is the lion and the lamb. I think as humans, we have a tendency to more easily relate to or accept God as a lion or God as a lamb. But the truth of the matter is that he's both. And so I have this challenge where it's like, in whatever way we feel more challenged, like whichever one is harder for us to grasp about God, let's ask him to show more of that part of his character to us. If we feel if we more easily understand God as the lamb, let's ask him to show us more about what it means for him to be the lion. And I think that as we grow in our understanding, as we grow in our communion, we will grow in our love of God. And I think we'll also grow in just understanding the depth of how good he is. The second thing that comes up for me is that when I feel angry, when I feel indignant, when I feel a sense of injustice, I need to submit that to God and ask him to search my heart and ask him to show me, like, is this in alignment with your zeal? Is this in alignment with your truth? Because I don't want to be a religious person like the priests and the scribes described here, who are indignant at the wrong thing. But I do want to be flipping tables and demonstrating zeal like Jesus when it comes to the holiness of God and what he has for his people. So as we soak in the word of God this Holy Week, may he renew our thoughts, make our heart a wellspring of life, and move our hands to action. So go flip some tables in the right way.